Jungle Cruise is the latest fantasy adventure movie from Disney and is actually pretty damn epic. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel Lifestyle Critic. I hope you're doing well. In this video we are going to be reviewing Jungle Cruise, which like I said is the latest fantasy adventure movie from Disney and is actually based on a ride in Walt Disney World, very similarly to the Pirates of the Caribbean movie being based on a ride as well, and as such it takes a lot of inspiration from Pirates of the Caribbean, Indiana Jones and The Mummy as well, and it's just a really fun Disney escapist movie that has actually been in production since 2004 and was originally going to have Tom Hanks and Tim Allen from the Toy Story franchise in this movie. However, obviously that's not happening, and instead we've got Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt, and it's got excellent characters in this movie, really cool twists and turns. I do feel like they could have pushed the plot a little bit more and made it a little bit more daring as well. I think they also could have expanded the landscape in which these characters are based in turn made the visuals a little bit more striking. But that being said, this movie is pretty damn awesome and I cannot wait to break it down for you in this movie review. So the plot of this movie is centered around the character called Lily and her brother McGregor, who wants to go on an expedition to find the fabled Tree of the Moon, whose petals are able to cure any illness. A load of fun events take place which result in Lily and McGregor having to work with mischievous cruise operator Frank in their hunt to try and find the Tree of the Moon. The film then explores whether or not this trio are going to be successful in trying to find this, has a whole host of different types of villains after them as well, and also has loads of twists and turns in this movie as well. Now from a positive point of view, it's just got a really refreshing, light-hearted, fun and comedic tone, which is really cool, and in turn it just means that you're able to escape into this fantasy world really successfully and just have a fun time while you're doing it, which is really great. And like I said before as well, it's got some really cool twists and turns in this movie. However, from a negative point of view, like I mentioned before as well, they definitely could have expanded the terrain and the areas in which they go into in this movie. I mean, they do explain why in the final 2/3 of this movie, but nonetheless, I do feel like they could have expanded the areas in which these characters go to. Also, I feel like they could have made this movie a little bit more shocking. I mean, I do feel like they play it a little bit safe in this movie at points, and I also feel like they could have made this film a little bit more danger-filled as well. But that being said, from a storyline point of view, this movie is actually pretty damn impressive. So the cast and characters of Jungle Cruise do a brilliant job in playing all of their roles, and you can just tell they're just having so much fun, and in turn the audience has so much fun as well. So let's go through them one by one. So first up, of course, we have Dwayne Johnson, who is playing Frank, the shrewd and calculated Jungle Cruise operator, and this character is really cunning and really daring in a very similar way to Captain Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean, and there is a lot more to this character than meets the eye, and I feel like Dwayne Johnson definitely gets better as an actor with every single movie that he plays a different character in, and I just feel like in this movie the character that he's playing is just really cool, and he just oozes the role as he's just not taking himself too seriously and is just throwing himself into the deep end quite literally, which is really cool. Next up we have Emily Blunt, who is playing the Lily character, very adventurous, very daring, very warm-hearted and really intelligent as well. She is definitely the heart of this movie, and she is able to put all of the clues together to literally piece everything together to try to work out where the Tree of the Moon is, and I just feel like she connects with all of the different characters really well in this movie. Next up we have Jack Whitehall, who is playing the McGregor character, very similar to John Hannah's Jonathan character from the Mummy franchise, and he is the eccentric younger brother to the Lily character, and he also has his own combat scenes in this movie, which is really cool, and I just feel like Jack Whitehall plays this character really well, and I just feel like he's got some hilarious moments in this film as well. Next up we have Paul Giamatti, who is playing the first villain in this film. He is the Port Master and in turn is Frank's boss in this movie, so has a lot of hilarious sequences with the Frank character, and the Frank character is always able to outsmart this character, which I think is absolutely hilarious. Next up we have the second villain in this movie, who was played by Jesse Plemons, and this time he's playing a German aristocrat, and this character is hilarious. He's always thinking he's going to outsmart all of the different characters, but ends up being outsmarted by all of them as well. And obviously we've seen Jesse Plemons playing a character in Game Night, that is a bit of a fool in that film, and he gets outsmarted there by everybody as well. So I feel like it's really hilarious to see it happening again in Jungle Cruise. And then we have the final villain in this movie, played by Édgar Ramírez, and this time he's playing a somewhat cursed pirate figure in this film that takes a lot of inspiration from the similar characters from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. And actually this character has a lot of rich history that you find out a lot more about as the movie progresses from a cast and characters point of view. Like I said before, they are absolutely brilliant in this movie. So from a visuals point of view, Jungle Cruise does look really, really great. It is very believable, and you can tell that Disney have spent a lot of money to make this world really, really cool and for you to escape into it, which is really successful. Like I said before though, I definitely feel like they could have expanded the terrain and the landscape and the area in which they're in, and they also could have definitely increased the fear factor in this movie, especially when certain characters are facing jeopardy, intensity and adversity in this movie. But all in all, this movie definitely is successful from a cinematography spectacle point of view. I just feel like they could have made it a little bit more better as well. In terms of comparisons, Jungle Cruise is crying out to become a bigger franchise in terms of expanding the world, having a bit of a sequel, maybe a bit of a prequel as well, which I'm sure will happen. But in turn, I feel like it can definitely be compared to other franchises. For example, definitely Pirates of the Caribbean, mainly in terms of being inspired by a ride which was very similar to what was happening with Pirates of the Caribbean. And there are going to be future movies that are also inspired by the different rides in Walt Disney World, and also the adventure aspects of Pirates of the Caribbean is definitely being inspired in Jungle Cruise. I think you can also compare this movie to Indiana Jones in terms of having a bit of a quest-based aspect and also something a little bit more supernatural happening in this movie as well. And also I feel like it takes a lot of blueprints as well from the Mummy franchise, especially in terms of the dynamics. So for example, in the first two movies, we've got a brother and a sister. The sister is definitely very intelligent, and the brother is somewhat a bit of a comedy value type character, and they are working together with someone that is a bit of an expert and is a bit cunning, and there's a bit of a love interest happening with the sister and with this cunning character as well, which I think is very similar to the blueprint that they do in the Mummy. But all in all, from a comparison point of view, I feel like Jungle Cruise is going to be a brilliant new addition within the Disney portfolio. So overall, I really, really enjoyed Jungle Cruise. I absolutely love escaping into the fantasy adventure worlds that Disney creates, and Jungle Cruise is definitely no different, as it really does allow you to escape into this brand new world, which is really, really cool. I do feel like they could have pushed certain aspects a lot further, and I do feel like the narrative of this movie could have been a little bit more clever, especially how the first Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, was really, really brilliant. You really didn't know where it was going to go. It definitely kept the audience very hooked, and there were really cool moments that you weren't expecting, which I definitely feel Jungle Cruise could have done a little bit more of. And like I said before as well, I do feel like they played it a little bit safe in certain moments. But that being said, it is a really, really cool movie. And so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.